Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel. And in our top stories today, a rather interesting one, a tale of the global and establishment workings. In other words, the cogs in the machine are turning, and it is an interesting indicator, as we'll get into that a little bit later, as to the direction and shift as it is pertaining to the 2024 election. We started off with Media Right, and we'll get into the reason why I'm using Media Right here, MediaRightNews.com. I know some people might raise some objections about it, but we're going to get into that. So, in a twist that could only be described as a plot from a cyberpunk novel where the protagonist has a sudden change of heart, Mark Zuckerberg, the enigmatic overlord of Meta, interesting way of phrasing it, has penned what might be his most surprising status update yet. A letter expressing regret over his company's role in censoring content at the behest of the Biden-Harris administration. How about that? You can't get any more direct than that. And I often share, quite often, with my leftist friends who challenge me on certain aspects of social media and the intentional censorship and the intentional lawfare that goes on. And I share articles like this because here we have Zuckerberg himself admitting exactly what we talk about here on the BuzWeaver channel. Here's the scoop, folks. Zuckerberg, in a move that has both his critics and supporters doing a double take, admitted to Congress that maybe, just maybe, playing the global hall monitor wasn't the best use of his time or Meta's resources. Oh, really? The letter, addressed to none other than the House Judiciary Committee, outlines his regret for buckling under the pressure from the White House to censor COVID-19 related content, which we couldn't even say on YouTube during that time. Well, we could say it, and we couldn't say it, and then it was monitored, and it had to be restricted, and yes, anyway. Including the kind of humor that satire, or the kind of humor and satire that might have made the lockdown days a tad more bearable. Here's what's fascinating. Because as we often talk about here on the BuzWeaver channel, the various sources I use, and I did a deep dive on this to look around to see how many other sources there were. Of course, I found another one here in the Economic Times. I think they did a good job too. Meta Chief Executive Officer Mark Zuckerberg, in a letter to the House Judiciary Committee, has alleged that the Biden-Harris administration repeatedly pressured Meta's team to censor posts related to COVID. This is not a surprise to anyone here on the BuzWeaver channel, and or who have been watching for all this time, as we constantly outline and punctuate this stuff for this very reason. Because we know that it was going on. We knew the censorship was going on. We knew that the suppression was going on. We knew they were using language like disinformation and misinformation and hate speech as the vehicle and leveraging point to stop people from saying certain things that the left, the establishment, the globalists did not agree with. And we see this consistently, and we can see that here now with Mark Zuckerberg. He further said that the platform had to make some changes that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, they won't make today. Zuckerberg also said he regrets not being more outspoken about it. So in other words, he played the litmus test of the wokeness culture, the cancel culture, the control culture, the authoritarian multicultural democracy that the Democrats, the establishment, and the globalists try to perpetuate, or they try to maintain. And here's the thing. Since March, my Instagram is almost like non-existent. It's like I'm there, I post on a regular basis, and the metrics and the activity is just as if I stopped doing Instagram, I probably would be more successful than if I continued on with my content. Because as you see here from Fox 5 Atlanta, WAGL TV and Fox 5 Atlanta, Instagram stopped recommending political content. Now social media users are noticing. I'm noticing very much so because my growth on Instagram is absolutely nil. It's like trying to plant seeds on concrete. It is doing nothing. Of course, if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, by all means, I have the links down below. But because of this right here, because of the changes made by Meta, there's just nothing going on Instagram for me. It's just absolutely not happening. Now, going back to what we just learned about Mark Zuckerberg, which should be a bombshell story across all social media because he is admitting that he was getting pressured by the administration. The administration that we have been saying for a long time as creators and posters across all platforms that we have been suppressed. Many have. I haven't been as suppressed, I guess, because I don't have the influence that many of these other people do. But there was censorship, and we can identify it. We can point to it. We have articles that talk about it, and I have them as well, and we have talked about them here on the channel for quite some time. But if you look at some of the different mainstream media outlets that talked about this, I mean, as close as you can get to some of these, like the Daily Beast, very left-leaning, Business Standard, kind of middle of the road, Bloomberg kind of leans more left, the Daily Beast, as I just mentioned, Time Magazine. So a few of them did pick up the article, but I couldn't find very much on NBC, CBS, MSNBC, the standard major news networks, or even CNN. Didn't see any of that. Fox Business, of course, picked it up. But it's not surprising because what do we say here on the BuzWeaver channel? The establishment uniparty is working in a coordinated effort. I mean, it's just there, ladies and gentlemen. Me pointing it out to you each time in a video is like overly redundant. It's ad nauseum at this point. But it is worth mentioning and emphasizing because you guys may share these videos with people that you know that are like not even aware of this or not even sure about it or have been denying it the whole time. And I can say right now, I will make a prediction for the outcome of the election, should Donald Trump win, that people are going to be in absolute shock, and it's because they thought that the media was providing them with information that was accurate, and they are not. They are absolutely not. And here we see Telegram CEO Pavel Durov arrested in France. Arrested, of course, because they consider that him having Telegram, which is gigantic. I think there was, I don't remember the actual number of users. It's in the millions, in the hundreds of millions. But he was arrested in France. He's Russian and French, and he was flying from Azerbaijan to France when he was arrested. So essentially he was arrested there, detained, I guess you could say, because they felt that he wasn't doing enough to censor his platform, which is absolutely fascinating. Detention of Telegram founder sparks debate about free speech and criminal activity online. Now, how in the world is he supposed to be responsible for elements of what people do on his highly encrypted site, right? Like he facilitates it, he has it there, and maybe he's got ways to moderate certain things, but holding him responsible for the criminal activity of individuals who have their own agency is quite an interesting diversion because, of course, we also have, for any of you who watch the channel here that are libertarians, are very familiar with Ross Ulbricht. Any and all libertarians, they like to have their free Ross posters and things that they have out there. And if you weren't familiar with Ross William Ulbricht is an American serving life imprisonment for creating and operating the darknet market website Silk Road from 2011 until his arrest in 2013. So basically, he created a site that allowed people to speak privately without snooping eyes and prying eyes. And of course, the underworld, as it were, took advantage of the Silk Road to facilitate their own illicit activity. As you can see here, facilitated the sale of certain products, right, and illegal products and services. So how responsible is Ross supposed to be for all this? And the reason I say this is because it brings us to Sundar Pichai of Google. I mean, if we're talking about arresting people for the, not being able to monitor and maintain what goes on their platforms, Google. I mean, who doesn't use Google? Who doesn't use Google for searches? Who doesn't use Google to facilitate themselves to activity and material online that could be questionable and in the interactions once you have arrived there? Facilitated by Google. Are we going to see Sundar Pichai suddenly pay the price for that? And then, of course, to reiterate again, as we have talked about here on the channel, one moment. From Elon Musk, the European Commission offered X an illegal secret deal. If we quietly censored speech without telling anyone, they would not fine us. The other platforms accepted that deal. So here we have the intentional, willful activity of the globalist. It's just the easiest way to say it. The globalist, the European Commission, the globalist, as we say here, the establishment uniparty here in the United States, essentially still wanting to maintain that control. But because Elon Musk owns Twitter, he allows for free speech, and he is not going to succumb to these censorship individuals. I was going to say crusade, but anyway, you guys know what I mean. And I find it interesting because, see here, this is from the union here. In our view, X doesn't comply with the DSA and key transparency areas, whatever. It's like hate speech. Hate speech is anything the left doesn't agree with. It's just that simple. And of course, we know about the Truth Cops, the Department of Homeland Security that had the dashboard to Twitter at the time when it was run by Jack Dorsey and Vijaya Gadde. Vijaya Gadde was head of legal and security. And they had a dashboard, and they would just simply get in touch with Vijaya or Jack Dorsey or others that were part of whatever the security team apparatus was for Twitter, and they would just shut people down. And as we all know, the sitting president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, was booted off social media. And in a coordinated effort, he was also booted off YouTube and Instagram and other social media platforms because they all work together. And of course, as you know here, the globalists themselves, UK Police Commissioner threatens to extradite jail U.S. citizens over online post. We'll come after you. What an absurd, ridiculous threat. This is kind of reminds me of passive-aggressive individuals. But apparently, in the UK, they identify individuals that have come into their country as asylum seekers. Apparently, the asylum seekers are a protected class in the UK because you can't talk about them. You can't talk about what they're doing, what their activity is. Even if it's illegal, you just simply can't do it because it's offensive. And of course, they don't want to be labeled as bigots. They don't want to be labeled as Islamophobic. So what you have is a bunch of self-righteous individuals who are unwilling to protect their citizens, protect the ideology, the philosophy, the institutions of their system. I mean, their constitution, their government is willing to capitulate to groups of individuals under the guise of not offending anyone and, of course, being righteous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Also, I wanted to mention here, too, we're seeing this huge change, this big movement across, with globalists and the establishment because of the shifting times and the direction of the politics here in the United States. Now, as I told a commenter the other day, the best way to know, to have a barometer at least, to know what direction things are swinging is you always want to go to the military-industrial complex. And as you can see here, back in 2020, they said, Trump's popularity slips in latest military time poll, and more troops say they'll vote for Biden. Now, this is a very subtle hint to the political pundits out there, the politically involved, to know that the military-industrial complex perceives that Joe Biden will probably be the next president because they are the insiders. They are the ones that make things happen. I would say the biggest two contributors to the establishment uniparty is the military-industrial complex and BlackRock. Of course, then you have all the other institutions and companies and corporations and unions and super PACs and these, that, and the other, and in Hollywood. It all trickles down, as we just covered with Taylor Swift. Was she a psyops? Taylor Swift, part of the program, being an influential individual to help out Joe Biden. But it is very fascinating to me because the other indicator is what the military-industrial complex says during this type of election period, when they say things like Chairman of Joint Chiefs says no role for military in presidential election. These are all little key indicators, buffers, if you will. I would call this a buffer, an intentional buffer to suggest that the military is just trying to posture and say, we're not going to be involved with this, that, or the other. And to me, it's just a key figure because, here in the Pentagon and Congress military times, they have no problem saying that Trump's popularity slips in the latest military times poll. So these are all little key indicators. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing or it's a good thing. I am just saying that is a key indicator for you guys to keep an eye out on. But it is very interesting lately, and I can even say it here as a creator myself, covering these political these articles and the current politics. YouTube has completely bottomed out this week for a lot of creators, including me. I mean, I have not seen it this bad, like deadbeat, like metrics has been extraordinary this week. But I did wanted to bring this to you and put all of these pieces together for you, because that's what we do here on the BuzWeaver channel, and just kind of align these things, because I think that people are hedging their bets. Robert Kennedy Jr. endorsed Donald Trump. Today, as of August the 27th, Monday, Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Donald Trump. Everything is going Donald Trump's way. And we also saw that Kamala Harris wanted to change the rules to the debate. And, of course, they keep talking about ABC. But, see, Donald Trump is in a lawsuit with George Stephanopoulos and ABC News. So how could he possibly get a fair debate when they are in litigation? It's absolutely extraordinary. But I want to thank all you guys across New Tech, especially everyone on Rumble. Thank you so much for your support on Rumble. Rumble is actually almost doing better than YouTube right now. So if you guys haven't started using Rumble, I think it's really growing immensely. Odyssey, BitChute, all you guys, thank you so much for your guys' continued support. You're actually outperforming YouTube as well. Absolutely extraordinary. But I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support. The likes, the shares, and the comments do help out the channel. And if you want to go a little further, then, of course, you have my affiliate links down below. You guys can look at those and figure out how it all works. And, of course, supporting me across social media. So I appreciate all of what you guys do. Appearing there on the screen, that would be the channel icon. You guys can click on that to subscribe, as well as to select notifications. That way you know when there's content here on the channel. And I'll see all you guys in the next video.